Hey, eccentric viewers.
Hey, we're back with your favorite wild, wacky, and Wonder Boys here.
WWW. No, Spanx here.
Mesmer.
Skinner.
Skinner.
Today for you guys, we're doing another story time.
Yeah, because I messed up.
Yeah. So, we'll go ahead and start this one.
Jump right. So,
So you have to do.
I have to do it, guys. All right. So, once upon a time, in a dark, dark place where the night was at its fullest, and the Dang it, shut up. The night was at its. Stop it! I'm trying to talk here. Okay, it was a full moon, not one of that half shit. You know, nobody likes that stuff. So it was a full moon, and the guy was doing his daily routine or nightly routine, should I say? And that he was a grave robber. His name is Gary, and he wasn't like any other grave robber. He was OCD. And he had to have everything specifically the way he wanted it to. He had to put everything in buckets, and they had to be measured the exact same as they usually are. And as he was doing his nightly grave robbing, the grave just was random, some random named like Susan McGee. That's whose grave he was digging up. And he was looking around, and he was trying to make sure no groundskeepers were, because he took forever to dig up these graves because of his OCD. And he heard rustling everywhere, and he was looked up, and he's like, nothing's going on. And nothing's going on, so I'll just continue on long way. And as he was digging, heard some more rustling, and he got up, and he's like, what's going on? And it happened to be a pair of yellow eyes. And then,
Those yellow eyes belong to a group of eggs. They weren't just any normal eggs. They were eggs from outer space, most likely, or maybe from underground. Aliens that have been living here for eons that we just didn't know about. Maybe that's where Easter comes from. Probably not. But these were mutant-type eggs, or alien-esque eggs. They had their eyes on Gary for a couple of minutes now, because they also like the stench of death. Because when these eggs die and they break open, they smell like death, or a really bad eggy fart. So they naturally like to eat things that also smell like death. And since Gary was a grave robber, he often smelled like death. So they would sidle their way closer and closer to Gary. And Gary was just stunned. He couldn't even move. He was so afraid of these eggs. Must have been 25 and a half of them staring him down. And the eggs got closer to him. Gary backed up against the wall that he created in his hole. And the eggs were staring down at him from the top of the hole. He could see nothing but the silhouettes of the eggs and the eyes shining down upon him. So the eggs jumped down into the hole to have a little chat with Gary. They said in their alien or mutant voices, "Hey there. My buddy, would you care to tell us what it is exactly you're doing? You don't seem to be partaking in any of the other usual Easter Sunday night activities that people usually do, which is why we don't haunt them instead, because that's Easter tradition. People hide the eggs and we mate with them while they're being hidden, but they don't know about it because they grow later on after they find them for the children. But since you're not partaking in any of these activities, we've all deliberated on the fact that we would all like to eat you, but we're willing to let you out of this situation so you won't be eaten. So, the way to get out of it is you must do 3 trials. And now we're going to tell you the 3 trials.
First, you may go up to an old lady and hit her in the face. Second, you have to hit that old lady in the face again. Third, you have to steal her prosthetic leg and hit her with it.
It's like easy job.
Sorry, my bad. Whoops. Sorry, old lady. Didn't mean to. And then the guy is like, he's just looking around and he's like, do you hear anything? And then he's like, why are there eggs on the ground? The egg bandit's back. Egg bandit's back, guys. And then he's like, goes down and then one of them hops into him like a ghost to, what is it, the word?
Possess.
Possess. Yeah, possess. So he's possessed of the egg bandits from a different planet that are aliens. And all the stuff that they were trying to tell him, and he was completely confused and didn't know anything that they were there at all. So they put all of what they already said into his mind, and then he was like, and then they came back out into their egg bodies, eggshells, execute, and
You must execute the trials.
and he knows to do the trial, but first he has to fill the hole back up because
He's OCD.
yeah, he's OCD and he can't do it, and he put all the grass and stuff that was already on top in a different pile, so he has to put it all back. Has to squish it all back so it's nice and flat. Gotta make it look perfect for a golf course, even though it's in a graveyard. Don't want to mess up those graves, do you?
Play some golf in a graveyard.
And then he starts to fills it up slowly because he's about middle-aged. You know, people are weird like that, right? Yeah, you're middle-aged, right?
Nope.
And he's slowly filling it up, even though he's about 6 feet down. Don't know how he's gonna get the dirt. I don't even know how he's getting out.
Because he's been away.
Technically, he was possessed, so he'll do whatever he needs to. So he'll remember that the eggs possessed him, and then he'll ask the eggs if they have a ladder, and then they'll be like, "Of course we do." Then they'll pull it out of their eggshell very slowly, like an inch at a time. So he has to put it all back together. Since he's OCD, he's gonna put it back together. So it's like 100-piece ladder, and then he has to climb on up and start putting the dirt back. And then he asks the eggshells, "Do you want your ladder back?" And they're like, "No, we don't. We don't want the ladder back." He's like, "I have to give you it back. I'm OCD." So then he starts taking it apart, and then he's like, "Here you go," and like breaks 2 of them.
With the eggs.
He's like, "Oh, my bad. You guys got those parts, right?" And they're like, "Yes, but you killed my brethren." My brethren. And once he got out of the hole, filled it up, and started to get in his own vehicle, he started to go into town, and then
he's searching high and low for an old lady. Any old lady he can find. So as he was driving down, he was making all his usual checks. He was making sure the mirrors were good because, of his OCD. Making sure they were at the perfect angle. He pulled out his ruler and made sure it was perfect and everything. So he was strolling down Main Street, because that's where he was, Main Street. And he was looking for old ladies. I don't know, in the middle of the night. I don't know where in the middle of the night he was going to go for to go find an old lady, but he goes and he swings by the laundromat. Maybe there's an old lady there in the middle of the night trying to do her laundry or something. And just he was lucky enough to go into the laundromat, and there was an old lady washing her laundry, and she was like, "Could you help me with this young boy?" And he's like, "I don't see why not." And so he was putting his clothes in there, and she's like, "Thank you, little boy." And he was like, "Oh yeah, thank you, you're welcome." And he starts walking out. He's, "Oh wait, the trials, yeah, I totally forgot." So he goes back in and he looks at this old lady, and he's like, "I don't think she's old enough." Like, and he said it out loud too, and she's like, "What is that supposed to mean?" He's like, "No, I just don't think you're old enough for the trials." "Are you trying to flirt with me, young boy?" "What? No, I'm just saying I'm trying to do this trial and I need to hit an old lady in the face." "What is this, hostile territory?" "I don't know what you're doing here." So, is this gang related here? And he's like, "No, I just wanted to help you with your laundry because I need these trials that these evil eggs told me to, they told me to do a trial. I need to do this." She's like, "Just don't do it with me." He walks out of the laundromat and he goes and tries to search for this other old lady because that old lady wasn't cooperating with him. So he finds this other old lady next to the bank, and she's just sitting there waiting for it to open because it's in the middle of the night. And he's like, "You just sitting here waiting?" And she's like, "Yes, I need my money." And he's like, "Well, it's like 2:00 in the morning, right?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm the first in line. I'm always the first in line." He's like, "All right, that's kind of weird, but hey, do you mind if I hit you in the face?" She's like, "What kind of question is that?" "Well, I need to hit you in the face." "No, that's not acceptable." So he's like, "Fine, I'll just walk away." And he goes and tries to search for another old lady because they have to be perfect because, he's OCD. So they've got to be a perfect old lady. So he just starts driving down Main Street again to try to find the perfect old lady in the world. So he goes and he finds this one with perfect hair, like white, and he's like, this one's got to be old. So I'm definitely gonna hit this one. So he goes, and he doesn't even talk to this one. He just pumps up his fist and just nails her right in the face. Just right in the face, and she starts bleeding, and she gets up and she's like, "Is that all you got, punk?" And she pulls out her cane and she's like, "Let's do this." And then
So the old lady takes a swipe at Gary with her cane and whacks Gary across the face with it. Then he gets all stunned as he tries to defend himself from her next swipe. And then she swipes again, and then he catches the cane in his hand and then breaks it over his knee and throws it. And he's like, "What now, old lady?" And she was like, and she says, "I don't need that cane. That was just a little bit of assistance. Go ahead, punch me in the fucking face. I'll take you on, you raper. Not gonna molest me this time, you punk." And Gary said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I never had the want to do that to an old lady ever. But I have to do this." So he goes to try to punch her in the face again, and he actually lands a second blow. But then he notices that she doesn't have a prosthetic leg. So he then wonders, what the hell am I going to do now? Because the third trial is to get the prosthetic leg and hit her with her own prosthetic leg. So he just hits the lady as hard as he can in the face and knocks her out cold. And she drops to the ground with a big thud. So then he starts to ponder, what am I going to do? So he then gets back into his truck. The eggs are snickering amongst themselves at what Gary had done. And they say, "Still one more trial, or else we'll eat you, flesh and bone." And Gary starts to get a little scared as he sees their razor-sharp teeth glistening in the moonlight. He says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll get the trial done. Just give me some time." They say, "You only have an hour left." So then he says, okay, just let me think. So then he starts driving around town, looking at all the handicap spots around town, trying to find that perfect prosthetic-legged old lady. So as he's passing by, he does see someone pull into one of the handicap spots, and then he waits. And then he does see an old person coming out of the car, and they do have one leg. One is prosthetic. He immediately gets out of the truck, jets straight for the person, takes the leg off, and smacks him right across the face. Upon realization that he thought it was a woman, but it was an old man. He's like, fuck! Now what? He's like, I don't think the eggs are going to let this pass. And of course, they were shaking their heads no to tell him that, nope, it wasn't good enough. It has to be an old lady, not an old man. So now he has this old man all pissed off, and he's like, well, look here, Shunny. I'm going to call the cops on your ass for that assault. And then Gary says, assault? I don't have any salt on me. You know what? This is just a big misunderstanding. I suffer from dissociative fugue state. It's all a thing. I have papers. I don't have them with me. Let me go get them. You stay right there. So he runs right back to his truck real quick, then starts driving around town, and he goes to the old folks' home because he's thinking, why didn't I go there in the first place? So he's like, hospital or an old folks' home? The old folks' home was closed, so he had to go to the nearest hospital. So he goes to the hospital in search of an old lady with a prosthetic leg. So he goes into each room with as much stealth as possible because he's not supposed to be infiltrating any of these rooms because he doesn't know these people. And it's against the hospital rules. So he begins searching room after room, and then he hits the jackpot. He finds a room with a quadriplegic woman in there. So she's got 2 prosthetic legs and prosthetic arms. So he had to make sure that the eggs knew about it, so he did grab a backpack to put them in so they would be able to see this. So he has the eggs in the backpack and staring the woman down. And next,
he takes them out of the bag, puts them on a table, and he's like, this one will count, right? And they're like, they start shaking their head and up and down and saying, yeah, it'll work. And then he pulls the leg off, hits her in the face, and then they're like, you have to do a first and second trial again, and then do the third one. So, really? And I was like, yeah, you have to do it on the same old lady. So then he's like, well, shit. So he's still going to hold the leg in the same hand. Hit the lady once in the face, and then she's still just laying there on the bed because she can't do anything. And then she's just like twitching her head back and forth like she's having a seizure or something. And then he goes for another blow, hits her in the face, her like eye and like nose is all bleeding and stuff. And he's like, well, leg again. Straight up hits her in the face again, and he's like, man, I should have been a murderer. And then he's like, okay. Since he needed to be polite at that time, he went ahead and put the old lady's leg back on since he kind of hit her in her face twice and then hit her with her own leg. And then he went up to the eggs and he's like, so the trial is complete, right? And they're like, yes, now you have to come with us. And then they pretty much pulled the GPS out of their shell to bring them to the spaceship that they have. So he puts them in the bag, leaves the hospital, hops in his truck, and starts driving where the coordinates are. And maybe about a day or two later, he finally gets to where he was going. It's like somewhere in Nevada somewhere. And, well, Nevada's a big desert, so. And, once he gets to Nevada, he goes driving through the desert, and then he sees the coordinates on the GPS, and then he's like, well, nothing's here. And then they're like, yes, it's over there. So then he gets out of the truck and takes them out of the bag and just holds them in his arm like a baby. And he's like, where, over there? And they're like, no. He keeps like pointing everywhere, and they always say no. And like, joke's on you, you idiot. But it's now take this GPS. And then this is where our ship is instead. So then he puts them back in the bag, hops back in his truck, and then he's still driving for a while. It's another 2 days later, and he's like in Alabama.
Jesus.
And he was probably driving really fast with no traffic on the road. So. And
Traffic. Got lucky.
And once he made it there, he started driving through a cornfield, and said, "Okay, these are the coordinates for this. Are we in the right place this time?" And they're like, "Yes, we're in the right place." So then he takes them out of the bag, gets out of the truck, and he starts pointing again. Points everywhere, and they're like, "This is not the right place again." And then once they're like, "Okay, here's the actual GPS." Gives them the new GPS, and then hops in the truck. Has to drive all the way to Mexico. I don't know how long that would take from Alabama, so I'm not gonna guess. And drives all the way to Mexico. Makes it over like the borderline, and then he stops, and then the cords are like right past the toll, like directly across the toll, and like in the middle of the road. Okay. And then he pulls out the GPS, and he's like, "Okay, these are the coordinates." And then he gets out again, holds them in his hand, and he points around, and he actually ends up pointing at the toll booth, and then they're like, "Yes, it's that." So he walks over there to the toll booth. The security guard's over there, and he's like, "Sir, what are you doing out of your car?" And he's like, "These egg things are telling me to come over here." And he looks at them, it's just like a 6-pack of eggs. So in his mind, he sees it as alien eggs, but in everyone else's mind, since they possessed him and they know that he will follow every rule, so everyone sees them as just regular eggs. So at that time, the security guard does.
He starts putting Gary's arms behind his back, and Gary's like, "No, I'm not crazy. I'm telling you, these eggs told me to come here, and now I'm here because this toll booth is their ship." And they're sitting in the cartons like, their eggs are like, "Yes, Gary, yes, this is our ship. It is our ship." And the security guards, "Yeah, buddy, okay, let's just remain calm and don't do anything with those eggs here, buddy." And he's like, "No, I'm not going to do anything with these eggs. These eggs need to remain safe because I took this trial to beat up this old lady, and now I'm here." "Wait, you beat up an old lady?" "No, wait, sir. You tell me these eggs told you to beat up an old lady?" He's like, "Yes, I hit her in the face with her prosthetic leg, okay? And I needed to because the trial said so, and these eggs were going to eat me. These eggs told me they were going to eat me if I didn't do this." And the guy's like, "Well, are you aware that an old lady can't really defend herself, especially with the prosthetic leg? Okay, this is like a major crime here." He's like, "Well, before that, I was trying to rob somebody's grave, so, I mean, I don't see the fact that beating up an old lady is, bad." And he's like, "Well, kind of is, okay?" And in the cartons, the eggs are sitting there. "He'll never let us go into our ship, Gary. You must kill him. You must kill him, Gary. You must kill him." And he's sitting there, I think you probably heard that. I'm going to have to kill you." The security guard's like, "What? What are you talking about? What? Did you hear what?" It's like, "The eggs told me to kill you." "What? Are you serious? How are you going to kill me with your arms behind your back because I just arrested you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll find my ways." And drops kick him in the chest, and the guy falls and hits his head on the rock and dies instantly. And he's like, well, that was easy. And the egg's like, good, Carrie. Good. That is excellent. Excellent. Now step inside the tool booth and wait. And he's sitting there staring at nothing. And he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just waiting for the eggs to do what they're supposed to do. And a car starts pulling up. And he's like, this is the car, Gary. This is the car. You must get in this car. And the car stops. And it's some old guy. And he's like, another old person? How many old people are I'm going to, find these, this time? And they're like, I don't care. Just throw him out to the car and get it and drive. He's like, well, all right. So he opens the car, throws the guy out of the thing, and he gets in the car, and he starts going. And then all of a sudden he gets sucked into the air, and he doesn't know what's going on. And then
he gets beamed up into the egg-shaped ship, and the bright light shines upon him, and you can see all these different weird writings and stuff that kind of look like hieroglyphics and other weird shapes, like a frying pan or a spatula or egg yolk. And as far as the eggs, they get beamed up into a separate location. And he's wondering why they beamed up in a different location in the ship than he did. Then he starts to walk forward, and it's an invisible wall. He's now in a cage or some sort of prison inside the egg's ship. And the eggs were laughing, saying that, well, to us, Easter is our April Fool's Day. And you just got pranked by us. Because that's what April Fool's Day to us is on our planet. So, we just pranked you hardcore. The only problem is, the pranks that you humans do usually don't result in bad things, but yours. All the stuff that you did, Gary. All the crimes you committed, and all the bad, terrible things that you've done. Oh, they will haunt you for the rest of your life. So the eggs start trembling, and out of the shell busts out arms and legs, and the neck rises up. So the egg is basically their head now. And then they get at these various weird-looking alien type of torture devices, stuff that's very sharp and shiny and spinny, coming towards Gary. Gary falls down. Then the eggs bring this spotlight and shine right on over him, and it's so bright that it's just, he can't see anything. And with that bright light shining down upon him, he just blacks out. And then Gary starts to awake. Again, it's all bright, and then he comes to. And then he looks around him, everything's white. He looks down, he's restrained. And he has a straitjacket on him. And then he remembers, oh yeah, back when I said I had that dissociative fugue state thing, well, I guess my other personality or person that I become when I undergo that committed some crimes and I didn't even know. So he remembers, it all comes back to him, if that's possible for somebody with that type of problem, that he committed all those crimes. He remembers all that now. Then he remembers, oh yeah, I've been in here for 5 years. I've committed all these crimes and now I'm in an insane asylum. So then he tries to make himself stay awake because every time he falls asleep, he gets reminded, or passed out, he gets reminded of all the things he's done when he undergone that state and realizes that he was just crazy the entire time. The eggs didn't exist. None of that actually happened other than the actual crimes. He did commit the murder. He did hit the old lady and all the people that he assaulted. He did rob the graves. Hence is why he is in the mental hospital or institution. And then the guard comes up to his little window over the door and says, "Hey, Gary, it's lunchtime." And Gary's like, "Oh, good. What's for lunch today?" And the guard says, "Well, it's Easter, so we're having eggs." The end.